This podcast is certified fresh. Freshmediaworks.com.
A title or deed to a house, right? That's what you're selling. You're selling that you own that title or that deed, and you're selling that house. And I think, well, if that deed represents a house that has no locks on the door, or that anyone could just jump in at any time of day and use the sofa that you own or as part of the house, is that as valuable as the same house that has the locks, that has protection, sort of thing. So
welcome to Lunch with Chris, where your host, Chris Doelle, brings you uplifting interviews with extraordinary individuals making a positive impact. Join as he introduces remarkable people who have left their mark on their respective fields.
Have you ever thought about doing your own podcast? It is the absolute best way to grow your brand, spread your message, and build your following. Fresh Media Works can help. We do all the heavy lifting, and you just focus on your message. To find out how easy we can make launching your new podcast, call 713-269-4620 or check us out at freshmediaworks.com. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Michael DeMond to the show. Michael, how are you doing?
Hey there, Chris. Great. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. How are you doing?
Cool. I'm doing great. And we'll get into how I ran into you, but I like to back up and start with, where did you grow up and how did you get into what you're doing?
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I was born in Michigan, and my father is in the military. He joined the Army shortly after, and we moved all over. So I'm an Army brat, technically. And, I've been in computers, started getting in computers, Tandy 1000 SX. I was back in, I want to say in the 90s. And I just, I didn't start to get into, coding until I started getting to HTML and JavaScript, and that was I want to say late early or mid 90s. And so from there, I wanted to learn how to do web pages, and that's really how I started. And from there, I got joined a startup out in Seattle. I got an invite. I was in college at the time. It was one of those decisions: do I continue on, finish college, or do I go into the .com era there? And the company, I was actually the first employee of the company there. It's Wild Tangent was the name of that, and it was an awesome time. I really enjoyed my time out there. And I started out as a webmaster there, and then I started getting into coding and JavaScript coding. And one of the products that this was based around, this startup, was 3D in a web browser. And that's kind of where I got my start. And it sort of went along with, that's sort of the theme of everything that I've been developing, is this, activity in a web browser, like not just rendering text or images, but interactivity. Of course, now the web is all of that. And that's kind of where I ended up with Starbeam.one, what I'm working on now. And that's technology is based off of Microsoft's Blazor. And so Blazor started in October of 2019. The very first version of that was released. And, and that kind of, what happened after that startup was I became a .NET consultant. So there's about 10 years there. I just glanced over, but, that's how I got my start in .NET, as I became a consultant there, and I got into C# and all of that. And so it's been basically web developer / .NET developer. And that culminated into October of 2019 when I just got done doing consulting, and I wanted to build my own product. I've always wanted to build my own product and own my own product. And that's where we get into having that Blazor available. And I started to do research into NFTs. And this is before NFTs were NFTs. No one knew what they were. And so I was like, that's actually really cool. Yeah. And, you read about it. It's very appealing. And it's like, okay, digital ownership. And there's this whole thing with a blockchain. And so you just read about it and you learn about it. And I was like, I'm going to build one of those, and I'm going to build it on Blazor. And that's kind of how I got my start. And just, because I had gotten out of consulting, I was living off of savings, and I was like, if I get back into consulting, I want to have this under my belt. I want to be able to say that I have Blazor experience, and that I can be a Blazor consultant. Maybe is kind of how I looked at it. And so I ended up building it, and that's what we have with Starbeam.one, and that's where we are today. And just to kind of give you a little background here of what Starbeam.one is and how it ended up what it is that I did start ending up started creating an NFT marketplace, and I was going to build an ETH marketplace. And then the Beeple sale hit and NFTs exploded. And I was like, whoa, this is no longer a thing that is kind of, nebulous or unknown. It's something that everyone knows about. And I got really uncomfortable. And, it's sort of one of those things where I thought the market was really saturated at that point. But of course, in hindsight, it's nothing like what it is now. It was actually very calm relatively. And so I was like, why, I started thinking about it. It's like, how can I differentiate myself? And I started thinking a little bit more. It's like, why do we need a blockchain? Why are people using blockchain? And why didn't we just do this before without a blockchain? Just have digital ownership with digital assets that have resale value. And, that's very close to what digital licenses do. And digital licenses allow you to take software and sell software, but they've never been resold. They never had resale value. And that's kind of what I put together and built it just to see what would happen with Starbeam.one. So, hopefully that answered your question. You asked where I grew up and what I'm doing now. So, or how I got to doing what I now. I think
so let's talk about that digital ownership, the blockchain versus how you're doing it. Talk about the functional purpose of digital ownership of an image.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a huge appeal to that, right? Like, well, we never really thought of it that way before. And, with a blockchain, it suffers from what I would consider a design defect. And I'm not the only person that thinks this, because one of the very strong arguments you get with using the blockchain for NFTs is this notion of a public image, because all an NFT is a record in a ledger, a public ledger, which is cool. There's very, I've been studying this since 2017, and then NFTs 2018 and 2019 around there. And I've gotten very familiar with it. It's very cool, right? You've got that public ledger, and it's, anyone can see it, anyone can validate it, and anyone can verify that, but it's still public. And because it's decentralized, you can't authorize it. And so anyone who has access to that link, which is what it is. It's a record with a link to a file that's hosted somewhere, hopefully, because that host could go out, even though they are doing IPFS, is what I believe they're doing now. And if anyone can access that, anyone can own it, anyone can download that, and anyone can have that asset that you are selling without paying anything, right? And so that was the very first thing I looked at with noticed with looking at a blockchain. And so if you did it centralized, traditional, as people typically expect, you can protect it by default. And of course, you get in the argument, well, someone can hack it and someone can get in and grab all your, but that's what people expect, right? And there's that due diligence, I think, of having that protection first versus just, having anyone download it and, you're questioning where's the value to that. People say part of the argument is, well, you've got the lease to your house. You could it's a title or deed to a house, right? That's what you're selling. You're selling that you own that title or that deed and you're selling that house. And I think, well, if that deed represents a house that has no locks on the door, or that anyone could just jump in at any time of day and use the sofa that you own or as part of the house, is that as valuable as the same house that has the locks, that has protection, sort of thing. So kind of the core question I started to kind of circle here was market choice, right? Like, blockchain's out. There's just so many solutions that are around there that have blockchain, and people have, if they want to do that, makes a lot of sense. I've studied it. I understand the appeal. But if you don't want that and you want to own an image without having a blockchain, there isn't choice, right? And so that's kind of what I got into. And I'm really surprised that I'm the only person that's done this. There hasn't been any other company that has gone out and done this yet. I was really thinking that like Facebook would do this, or any of the Meta, that it's Meta now, and maybe X, and they all started doing the NFTs, but they never got into like, why not just do it centralized? Because you could have been doing this for as long as digital licenses have been around, sort of thing. But anyways, hopefully that answers your question here of that appeal of that value behind that. And so there's a fundamental issue here where that that asset that you're owning right now on a blockchain, anyone can access it. And so there's a questionable value behind that. And that's what people, they sort of question that. And so obviously with what I'm saying here, with what we've done with Starbeam.one, is it's protected by default. So you cannot own the source file until you purchase the license to it. And once you purchase the license, you can access that. And for this next version I'm building, we protect it a little bit better with making sure, because what people do, I've got a lot of NFT artists that are using the platform, so they go right for the source file and they copy and paste it and they put it on their profile, or they put it, they share their purchase as a source file. I was like, well, it's not exactly how it's supposed to work, So right. this next version we're building is going to make it so that it makes it a little bit more difficult to do that. And we also give them a watermarked alternative that they can share as well. So I've been talking for a while. I'll let you.
No. And let me ask you this. So let's say I go on there, which I did, and created some inventory. Yeah. And somebody purchased one. Now that they own it, what do they have the right to do? What are my rights still with it? If you could explain that.
So for the very first version, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. There's so many ways you can go with this. So for the very first version that I built, I try to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah. And that is just keep it to two rights, and the rights that are enforceable by software. And that is the right to view the source file, as we just talked about. And then the second right is the right to resell that to another party on our secondary marketplace. And so the rights are there and they're enforceable by software. I just try to keep it really simple for the very first version. And going forward, it is possible to expand on that and introduce other rights. One really big popular one is the right to print, right? Being able to take that asset and then print it on a physical, object, a mug or a pillow or stickers is also another one. So that's kind of the one we have, the big request that we have on our backlog. But other rights will definitely could be added to, in the future. Right now, it's just very simple.
Got it. And so if somebody bought an image, and right now they have the right to view it and resell it, but let's say you did change, and now in the next version, they have the right to print it or to publish it in a book or whatever. Is that retroactive, or do they have to then renegotiate that?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought that far ahead. So, I would say typically how I go about it, I kind of do the Microsoft way is that you honor the history, the legacy, make sure that typically speaking, historical code is maintained or preserved as much as possible. And so that's kind of how I look at it. So if we did introduce a new right, basically the rights that are established on current licenses would stay as put, and then it would be going forward, the licenses that are generated from there would introduce these new rights, and would be something that is deliberate by the artists that publish them going forward.
Yeah, and there's one thing I really loved when I first saw it. I guess my first impulse was I get there and I go, "Oh, this is cool, a marketplace. I can put some stuff up." But then I saw there's a limit, and I think it's brilliant. The limit, explain that limit so that it doesn't get flooded with just tons of garbage.
Yeah. So it's called capacity right now. And so when you create an account and a publisher account, you have this notion called capacity. And right now it's established per market, and this capacity is like a capacity tank. So you only have based on per market. Let's just use standard market. I believe it's 25 units of capacity. 1 unit equals 1 flare, and 1 flare equals $1. We didn't get into this yet, but one of the things about having a centralized solution is that there is no underlying asset that is volatile and is traded on a public exchange and manipulated on a public exchange, creating a bunch of volatility for your prices. So as you earn $1, that dollar stays $1, and so that's the unit that we use. It's just one digital dollar.
Government makes it volatile, but not you.
Yes, exactly. That's I like to joke that the only thing you have to worry about here is inflation. So that is absolutely correct. So, but simpler that way, right? And so that it's going. That's kind of what you expect. Getting back to that traditional and this is what you expect sort of thing. And so what we have for this notion for the first version here of capacity. And it didn't start out this way. It kind of ended into this way, just to kind of limit how people can publish, is that you have 25 units in the standard market of capacity. So that means you can publish at any time $25 of product. And so what happens is that you say you publish, 5 products at $5 a piece, and then you're out of capacity. You have to sell one of those in order to get more capacity back. So when you sell something, you get that capacity back plus a reward or award of 10% to publish more. So that's kind of how that works, to sort of prove that you can publish and make it so that you're not exactly flooding the marketplace with whatever you want to. So that was kind of the first go at it. For the next version, we're actually going to be more like what you see with other marketplaces, and you're going to be able to publish as much as you want, as long as you pay for the hosting of that. So that was kind of one of the learning lessons here, is that these images cost money, and right now we're not really having a way of paying for that, but the next version we're going to be doing that.
Nice. And so let's say I go on there as a Starbeam day trader, and
right.
I purchase and sell and purchase and sell, and I make large profits. Let's say I have 10,000 flares.
Yeah.
What can I do with that?
Yeah. Well,
how do I convert it to something I can use?
So that would be that's a good question. That's it's really just a marketplace for purchase and selling digital art, and so the money right now gets onboarded through Stripe, PayPal, and Coinbase Commerce. We support that. So if you have cryptocurrency, you can actually convert that into dollars or into flares through Coinbase Commerce. And then when you're ready to make a withdrawal, you can use both or either PayPal or Coinbase to get the money sent back to you. And so that's really all it does. It's very simple. It's very focused on what it does. And if you've got 10,000 flares, right now we're actually looking to onboard a KYC, know your customer solution, so that you can have large amounts. And this kind of the one thing that we've done so far to kind of mitigate that is low price points. So we've got about, I think it's close to 8,000 sales and resales now. And we've done about, I think it's $12,500 flares of volume overall, with zero formal marketing whatsoever. So the only thing we've done is word of mouth through Twitter and a couple of other networks. And that's worked really well. It's gotten us to this point. So it kind of shows you that there's definitely a market here. Just need to capitalize on that and improve upon that, and add a little bit more value to that. So to kind of answer your question here, that really the only thing you could do is purchase more art. And if you're making money from that, you could withdraw it using PayPal and Coinbase. Yeah. And if you have large amounts like that, if you're going to have large amounts like that, you're going to definitely have to have KYC at that point.
Yeah, definitely. And then what about, let's say this show explodes and we get a lot of people watching it and wanting to join. Do you have a way to earn flares by bringing people to the community?
Oh, that's a great question. Not at the moment, but yeah, having a referral program is on the backlog. There's just so many. I'm the only developer on the staff right here. I am the staff. I'm everything. Everything you see is actually me. So it's just after 5 years of work here. I just passed my 5th year last month, and so one of the things we've been wanting to do is a referral program. And so if you do onboard someone, you get a referral code, and then you get a percentage of maybe a reward for that, and then a percentage of whatever volume they do over time, sort of thing. But not right now. But yes, we've got that identified as a potential feature in the future.
Very cool. Very cool. What has been, I guess, your biggest learning? Your biggest lesson from doing this?
Oh my goodness. So you need a team.
Yes.
You really need a team. I mean, I've always been I've always liked to do my own projects and learn on my own. And, through this, I call this my pandemic product and, my pandemic project. And that's what I did through the pandemic. In fact, I was able to work on it for so long, not only from savings, but from the PUA program that the government put out. That has actually sustained me up until now. I've been very fortunate with that. I would not have been able to do this without that. And so, but even still, after 5 years, that's easily the best thing I've built. Easily the greatest thing and the coolest thing they've ever built. but I feel like I could be so much further with a team, and just building a team that hasn't materialized yet. Hoping to do that in the next year. I'm looking at going on WeFunder and doing a community round through that to get actual, real funding to bring on a team. And I'm also partnering up here with local startup resources. There's Leap in particular here in Michigan, and I'm getting really familiar with them. They're great, a great crowd there. And I've been having a lot of success with talking about getting grants and, getting services provided through them. And so that's the next step here, is to kind of take that next step, get KYC and bring on a team. And but another thing I've learned is just don't quit. And really just perseverance is everything. And they're just, even if it seems, I know it's like, I'm kind of, money's becoming a factor here for me recently. Even if it seems like it's as bad as it looks bad, or that things don't look as good as it could be, just there's always something that keeps you going, sort of thing. And something happened this past week, just like, well, why not just do a WeFunder round, and it's something that I thought of back in the beginning of the year with March and whatnot, and just starting revisiting that. It's like, okay, yeah, I can actually make it to a WeFunder round. Is that make it to that, then you can take it to the next level. So yeah, there are a lot of learning lessons, but yeah, really, it's just those are probably the top ones. Yeah,
no, I love that. And you mentioned a team. I just reread a book called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan, and that is brilliant. I recommend it. It's all about putting that team together, because that's everything. I agree with you. But let me ask you, big picture, if this becomes your ultimate, moonshot of what it can be, what will it look like?
Man, that's a great question. Thank you. It'll be profitable. That's the goal now, is that I have really, I've established, I kind of wanted to prove myself with this project, and just being a hotshot developer, you think you have all the answers, and that's probably a learning lesson as well, is that you don't know all the answers. Humility is everything, and the more that you code, the more that you try to build a business, the more humble you will become, and that is definitely a learning lesson. And I started this to kind of prove to myself that I could do it, and I feel like I've proven myself that I can do it. It's over 165,000 lines of C#. By the way, it's all C#. There's about 150 lines of JavaScript in the solution. So very little JavaScript, all C#, going through Blazor. But I proved that part, and I only, it's kind of a bad thing to brag about lines of code, because I just use it as a kind of a metric to kind of share the scale of it. But it's easily the biggest project that I've worked on by far. The next step here is to get profitable, and that's kind of the ultimate goal of any developer. Okay, you can build something cool, but can you make it profitable? And that's definitely the next step. And I'll tell you, after studying this year with the NFT space again, starting back in 2019, and then once you introduce a product, you get really familiar with how the marketplaces work. The NFT model really, to me, is not viable. It's just you study people. I don't know if you're familiar with this, like if you know anything about NFTs, you can everything's public, and that's really cool, right? And I try to make our activity as public as possible. We've got a dashboard that's available. It's bottom of the site. You just scroll to the footer, and you'll see a dashboard. You see all sorts of statistics. But with NFT marketplaces, everything is public, and you can monitor when someone's doing well, and you can track them. Okay, well, they're doing really good right now, and there hasn't been a single one that has gone more, I would say, maybe like 3 months. 3 months is probably the longest I've seen someone have a good run with NFTs or be really active. But after that happens, they'll go months or definitely weeks, just nothing. And there's a lot of people that I was really tracking for a while. And to me, that tells me that the market is only viable as long as there's new money coming in. You need to have that new money coming in some way, and that kind of it ends after a while. There's only so much money that people have, and unless you're constantly bringing in people, you're going to be really struggling with that. So to me, the answer to that is subscriptions. Subscriptions are a really good way, low cost. And I've always thought about this with getting back to the publishing model, is that when you buy a comic book, you're only paying $5. It's a very little amount. And so that's really kind of the spirit I wanted to bring to Starbeam.one, is to have a publishing model where it's lots of quantity and lower prices. And, you can really capture that really well with subscriptions. And so at the ultimate goal here, to answer your question, is having a subscription-based model that also interacts with the organic models, what I call it right now, with the NFT model, where you have a piece of art and you're selling it for just a lump sum, and that's it. There's no subscription. So but I think those two models play well with each other, and that's ultimately what I want to get to. Because once you lock someone in with a subscription, as any modern day service will tell you this, that's a very positive thing, and especially with a market, that's that new money, right? And so if you're constantly having new money enter the market in that capacity, then you kind of improve the chances of it being viable. And one last note with that is that NFTs can't do subscriptions very well. You need to have a transaction signed each and every time that a transaction occurs on a blockchain, and you can't do that with a subscription. So I know that there are other really fancy ways of doing that, but all that I've read is that it's very difficult to do subscriptions on a blockchain because of that limitation. But with traditional centralized technology, it's very easy. So that's kind of where I'm going. And then, hopefully we can get profitable with that. And that would be a great time. So that's kind of what I'm eyeballing here with the WeFunder. The WeFunder story will definitely involve subscriptions. So
yeah, and I saw, after I played around a little bit on the site, I saw about the ability to put audio. Being a podcasting guy, I started thinking of all sorts of different iterations of how to use that. How do you foresee the audio working in this scenario?
Great question. I thought of audio as music creation. I have a lot of music artists, and none of them really use it. Audio is the least used asset that's on our marketplace right now. And so that's a great question. We're going to be always using subscriptions. And so that would be a good way of doing that, right? You can sell your audio podcast as a product, right? And, that's, that would be an excellent way of doing that. And it would be collectible, right? Yeah. And so it would be, you put something out once a week, and a weekly show or a daily show, depending on your cadence, and you have people subscribe to that, and they're locked in. And then the cool thing about this, what differs from this model, what I always liked about this, that differs from like Patreon or other places that do this, is that the pressure is inversed, right? So when you become a Patreon artist, creator, you're on a treadmill. And you're getting that money regardless of, you do something or not. And so there's that pressure of creating something, and it leads to creator burnout, right? There's a lot of pressure there because you're constantly getting that money and you constantly need to perform. I hate that. I absolutely hate that, right? And so as an artist, I think you need that freedom to create when you feel like creating. And that's what's great about this model, right? You create when you want to create, and that value is locked into an account through a subscription, then it's only accessed when something is produced and released to you at that time, sort of thing. So it's very cool, right? It's like it's a very natural way of, it's sort of like a regular organic transaction, but it's locked in, right? Or it's dedicated to whatever activity that you're going to be doing there, with a series or show.
Yeah, I may try putting this episode actually up as an audio on there, because it'll help your audience understand it a little better too.
Yeah, that was great.
But I think about, the audience for podcasts on Spotify, on iTunes, on Stitcher, all these places. Stitcher's gone, but
is it?
Yeah, Stitcher? It went out. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Hundreds of millions is that audience versus the audience at Starbeam. I wouldn't necessarily want to move a show entirely to there right now.
Oh no.
Maybe bonus shows go there, or releases there first for subscription, and then it comes out on the rest of the world.
Obviously
like that. I would love to work with you on that.
Yeah, that's great. That's an awesome idea. Thank you for that. Yeah, definitely would like to work with you on that. Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea. And I'm thinking, you can try it right now, but it's definitely not. We've only have again, there's been no formal marketing. We have about 400 users right now, and about I think a little over 100 artists, 125 artists, I believe it was. And it's just it's infancy right now. But we definitely plan to grow. And again, getting KYC and things of that nature, actual funding, taking it to the next level. Yeah, that's definitely more of the time that would probably be better to host more of a show formatted sort of thing. Yeah. And subscriptions, of course.
Cool. Yeah. Anything I failed to ask that you think the audience should know?
Oh, goodness. No, I really didn't know what to expect with this, and I don't really have an agenda. I actually just like going with the flow and having a conversation. Thank you so much for that. I think I covered all of, the 3 bullet points here of the benefits of using a traditional technology for a digital marketplace. We've got that volatility question. We don't have an underlying asset that can be traded and manipulated on a public exchange like you do with Bitcoin or any of the other cryptocurrencies. There's none of that. It's all a traditional dollar. The one thing that we also do not have is a wallet. So when you install a wallet, that's something that can be hacked or scammed. Mostly there's such a scam culture around.
More likely to lose your codes.
Yes, exactly. Or if you make a transaction with it, you can't reverse it. It's out there. That's why there's so many scams, right? So once you make, there's a very mistake prone. I don't know about you, but I'm very mistake prone. And I like having that ability to reverse a transaction. You can't do that with a wallet. So there's a complication of that, and also the risk with that. And that's no longer a thing here. It's all centralized. We take care of the account, and fraud happens as traditional as getting back to what you expect. We can reverse that sort of thing, so we can mitigate that. And then so so that's the second thing. And then the last thing we already talked about, just kind of, it's a good point to land on, because I feel it's the strongest, that we protect your content as an artist. And so your art is not out there until someone pays money for it, and that just makes a lot of sense to me. And I think, once, more people understand that, it'll become more of a thing. I'm hoping. So I'm a little biased though, but just such an important concept. Yeah.
I love that. And finally, how can people discover it, play with it? Where do they find it all?
Yeah, so we're on X. That's our biggest show right now, or our biggest platform. Biggest showing is that we have a good community on X, Twitter, however you want to call it. People are still refusing to call it X, and they call it Twitter. And Starbeam.one, STARBEAM.ONE. And it is, that's the URL for that. And then without the dot is the handle on X. And so you can find us there, and just type that into your browser, or just Google it. I'm sure it shows up there too. But just check us out, and we welcome to have you, and check us out on Twitter as well. That's probably the best way.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I recommend everybody go check out Starbeam.one. It is a very cool site, a very cool idea, and I know I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad you have success. And if you're on X, I will add you to, I will add you to our chat, so you can hopefully get a little bit more interaction there, and a little bit of sales.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. And we'll be talking soon for sure.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. This has been awesome. I really appreciate the time. And I will see you online. Thank you so much.